Thomas Earl. Tom Petty is an American musician, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and record producer. He is best known as the lead vocalist of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but is also known as a member and co-founder of the late 1980s supergroup the Traveling Wilburys and Mudcrutch. He has recorded a number of hit singles with the Heartbreakers and as a solo artist, many of which remain heavily played on adult contemporary and classic rock radio. His music has been classified as rock and roll, heartland rock and even stoner rock. His music, and notably his hits, have become popular among younger generations as he continues to host sold-out shows. Throughout his career, Petty has sold more than 80 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling artists of all time. In 2002, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Biography: early life and paternity. Born and raised in Gainesville, Florida, and attended Gainesville High School. His interest in rock and roll music began at age 10 when he met Elvis Presley. In the summer of 1961, his uncle was working on the set of Presley's film Follow That Dream in nearby Ocala, Florida, and invited Petty to come down and watch the shoot. He instantly became an Elvis Presley fan, and when he returned that Saturday he was greeted by his friend Keith Harbin and soon traded his Whammo slingshot for a collection of Elvis 45s. In a 2006 interview on the national public radio program Fresh Air, Petty said that he knew he wanted to be in a band the moment he saw the Beatles on The Ed Sullivan Show. "The minute I saw the Beatles on The Ed Sullivan Show, and it's true of thousands of guys, there was the way out. There was the way to do it. You get your friends and you're a self-contained unit. And you make the music. And it looked like so much fun. It was something I identified with. I had never been hugely into sports. I had been a big fan of Elvis. But I really saw in the Beatles that here's something I could do. I knew I could do it." It wasn't long before there were groups springing up and garages all over the place. One of his first guitar teachers was Don Felder, a fellow Gainesville resident, who would later join the Eagles. As a young man, Petty worked briefly on the grounds crew for the University of Florida, but never attended as a student. An Aguichi lime tree that he planted while employed at the university is now called the Tom Petty tree. He also worked briefly as a gravedigger. Petty also overcame a difficult relationship with his father, who found it hard to accept that his son was a mild-mannered kid who was interested in the arts, and subjected him to verbal and physical abuse on a regular basis. Petty was extremely close to his mother, and remains close to his brother Bruce. 1976 /87, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Shortly after forming his musical aspirations, Petty started a band known as the Epics, later to evolve into Mudcrutch. Although the band, which featured future Heartbreakers Mike Campbell and Benmont Tench, were popular in Gainesville, their recordings went unnoticed by a mainstream audience. However, their only single, Depot Street, remains popular amongst fans. The original Mudcrutch included guitarist Danny Roberts, who was later replaced by bassist Charlie Souza. After Mudcrutch split up, Petty reluctantly agreed to pursue a solo career. Tench decided to form his own group, whose sound Petty appreciated. Eventually, Petty and Campbell collaborated with Tench and fellow members Ron Blair and Stan Lynch, resulting in the first lineup of the Heartbreakers. Their eponymous debut album gained minute popularity amongst American audiences, achieving greater success in Britain. The single Breakdown was re-released in 1977 and peaked at number 40 in early 1978 after the band toured in the United Kingdom in support of Nils Lofgren. The debut album was released by Shelter Records, which at the time was distributed by ABC Records. Their second album, You're Gonna Get It, marked the band's first top 40 album and featured the singles I Need to Know, and Listen to Her Heart. Their third album, Damn the Torpedoes, quickly went platinum, selling nearly 2 million copies. It includes their breakthrough singles Don't Do Me Like That, Here Comes My Girl, and Refugee. In September 1979, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers performed at a Musicians United for Safe Energy concert at Madison Square Garden in New York. Their rendition of Cry to Me was featured on the resulting No Nukes album. 1981's Hard Promises became a top 10 hit, going platinum and spawning the hit single The Waiting. The album also featured Petty's first duet, Insider with Stevie Nicks. Bass player Ron Blair quit the group, and was replaced on the fifth album by Howie Epstein. The resulting lineup would last until 1994. In 1985, the band participated in Live Aid, playing 4 songs at Philadelphia's John F. Kennedy Stadium. Southern Accents was also released in 1985. This album included the hit single Don't Come Around Here No More, which was produced by Dave Stewart. The song's video featured Petty dressed as the Mad Hatter, mocking and chasing Alice from the book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, then cutting and eating her as if she were a cake. The ensuing tour led to the live album Pack Up the Plantation, Live, and to an invitation from Bob Dylan. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers joined him on his True Confessions tour and also played some dates with the Grateful Dead in 1986 and 1987. Also in 1987, the group released Let Me Up, which includes Jammin' Me, which Petty wrote with Dylan. 1988–91, Traveling Wilburys and solo career. In 1988, Petty became a founding member of the Traveling Wilburys, along with Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Roy Orbison, and Jeff Lynne. The band's first song, Handle with Care, was intended as a B-side of one of Harrison's singles, but was judged too good for that purpose and the group decided to record a full album, Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. A second Wilburys album, mischievously titled Traveling Wilburys Volume 3 and recorded without the recently deceased Orbison, followed in 1990. The album was named Volume 3 as a response to a series of bootlegged studio sessions being sold as Traveling Wilburys Volume 2. In recent years, Petty has begun to incorporate Traveling Wilburys songs into his live shows, consistently playing Handle with Care in shows from 2003–2006, and for his 2008 tour making End of the Line a staple of his setlist. In 1989, Petty released Full Moon Fever, which featured hits I Won't Back Down, Free Fallin', and Runnin' Down a Dream. It was nominally his first solo album, although several Heartbreakers and other well-known musicians participated. Mike Campbell co-produced the album with Petty and Jeff Lynne of Electric Light Orchestra, and backing musicians included Campbell, Lynne, and fellow Wilburys Roy Orbison and George Harrison. Since all the original Traveling Wilburys except Bob Dylan participated on the album, it is sometimes considered the unofficial Traveling Wilburys Volume 2. Petty and the Heartbreakers reformed in 1991 and released Into the Great Wide Open, which was co-produced by Lynne and included the hit singles Learning to Fly, and Into the Great Wide Open, the latter featuring Johnny Depp, Gabrielle Anwar, Faye Dunaway, and Matt LeBlanc in the video. Before leaving MCA Records, Tom and the Heartbreakers got together to record Live in the Studio, 2 new songs for a greatest hits package. Mary Jane's Last Dance, and Thunderclap Newman Something in the Air. This was Stan Lynch's last recorded performance with the Heartbreakers. Tom commented he left right after the session without really saying goodbye. The package went on to sell over 10 million copies, therefore receiving diamond certification by the RIAA. 1991 A Euro Present, moved to Warner Brothers Records. In 1989, while still under contract to MCA, Petty secretly signed a lucrative deal with Warner Brothers Records, to which the Traveling Wilburys had been signed. His first album on his new label, 1994's Wildflowers, included the singles You Don't Know How It Feels, You Wreck Me, It's Good to Be King, and A Higher Place. The album, produced by Rick Rubin, sold over 3 million copies in the U.S. In 1996, Petty, with the Heartbreakers, released a soundtrack to the movie She's the One, starring Cameron Diaz and Jennifer Aniston. The album's singles were Walls, Climb That Hill, and a song written by Lucinda Williams, Change the Locks. The album also included a cover of Asshole, a song by Beck. The same year, the band accompanied Johnny Cash on Unchained, for which Cash would win a Grammy for Best Country Album. In 1999, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers released their last album with Rubin at the helm, Echo. 2 songs were released as singles in the U.S., Room at the Top, and Free Girl Now. The album reached number 10 in the US album charts. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers played I Won't Back Down at the America, a tribute to Heroes benefit concert for victims of the September 11, 2001 attacks. The following year, he played Taxman, I Need You, and Handle with Care at the concert for George in honor of Petty's friend and former bandmate George Harrison. 2002's The Last DJ included several attacks on the music industry, criticizing it for greed, watering down music, and releasing pop music made by scantily clad young women, and reached number 9 on the US charts. Tom has commented though that he didn't like being called bitter by the media and that The Last DJ is full of hope, if you look for it. In 2005, Petty began hosting his own show Buried Treasure on XM Radio, on which he shares selections from his personal record collection. In February 2006, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers agreed to be the headline act at the 5th annual Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. Following that announcement came the itinerary for Tom and the Heartbreakers' 30th anniversary tour. Special guests included Stevie Nicks, Pearl Jam, the Allman Brothers, Trey Anastasio, the Derek Trucks Band, and the Black Crowes. Stevie Nicks would join Tom and the Heartbreakers on stage for renditions of Stop Draggin' My Heart Around, and Insider, and I Need to Know, where Nicks took the lead vocal spot. Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam also joined Tom and the Heartbreakers on stage at some shows where Vedder sang the lead on The Waiting, and a verse in the concert Closer American Girl. In July 2006, Petty released a new solo album titled Highway Companion, which included the hit Saving Grace. It debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200, becoming Petty's highest chart position since the introduction of the Nielsen SoundScan system for tracking album sales in 1991. Highway Companion was briefly promoted on the 30th anniversary tour with the Heartbreakers in 2006 with performances of Saving Grace, Square One, Down South, and Flirting with Time. In 2006, the American Broadcasting Company hired Petty to do the music for its National Basketball Association playoffs coverage. During the summer of 2007, Petty reunited with his old bandmates Tom Ledon and Randall Marsh along with Heartbreakers Benmont Tench and Mike Campbell to reform his pre-Heartbreakers band Mudcrutch. The band originally formed in 1967 in Gainesville, Florida before relocating to California where they released one single in 1974 before breaking up. The quintet recorded this self-titled new album of 14 songs that was released on April 29, 2008. The band supported the album with a brief tour of California in the spring of 2008. In 2007, artists as diverse as Willie Nelson, Lucinda Williams, Norah Jones, Lenny Kravitz and Paul McCartney paid tribute to Fats Domino on the double CD cover set Goin' Home, a tribute to Fats Domino. The album's sales helped buy instruments for students in New Orleans public schools and they contributed to the building of a community center in the site unregistered trademark S Hurricane Katrina damaged 9th Ward. Tom and the Heartbreakers unregistered trademark contributed a critically acclaimed cover of a OEM Walk Into the Package. In January 2008, it was announced that the band would be embarking on a North American tour which was set to start on May 30 following the appearance at Super Bowl XLII. Steve Winwood served as the opening act, who joined Petty and the Heartbreakers on stage at select shows, starting on June 6, 2008 in Philadelphia, PA. Winwood's Spencer Davis group hit Gimme Some Loving was performed and occasionally his Blind Faith hit Can't Find My Way Home was performed before it. On February 3, 2008, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers performed during the halftime show of Super Bowl XLII at the University of Phoenix Stadium. He played American Girl, I Won't Back Down, Free Fallin', and Runnin' Down a Dream, in that order. I Won't Back Down was used in the closing credits of the coverage on BBC Two. The live anthology is the most recently announced project of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Its announcement comes nearly a year after Petty's last record, Extended Play Live, by Mudcrutch. In November 2009, Petty told Rolling Stone that he is working on a new album with the Heartbreakers, saying it's blues-based. Some of the tunes are longer, more jam-y kind of music. A couple of tracks really sound like the Allman Brothers, not the songs but the atmosphere of the band. In February 2010, Petty announced a new Heartbreakers album, Mojo, to be released on June 15, 2010. This was followed by a North American summer tour beginning on June 1, 2010. The band also appeared as musical guests on the season finale of Saturday Night Live on May 15, 2010. In 2012, the band announced a North American and European tour that visited several European countries that the band had not visited in nearly 20 years. In early 2013, Petty and the Heartbreakers announced that they would be playing at several North American festivals in the late spring and summer, and in February, the band announced a North American tour and an upcoming album to be released in 2014. Petty has been managed by Tony Dimittis since 1976. Acting career: Petty's first appearance in film took place in 1978, when he had a cameo in FM. He later had a small part in 1987's Made in Heaven and appeared in several episodes of It's Garry Shandling's Show between 1987 and 1990, playing himself as one of Garry Shandling's neighbors. Petty was also featured in Shandling's other show, The Larry Sanders Show, as one of the Story Within a Story final guests. In the episode, Petty gets bumped from the show and nearly comes to blows with Greg Kinnear. Petty appeared in the 1997 movie The Postman, directed by and starring Kevin Costner, as the Bridge City Mayor. In 2002, he appeared on The Simpsons in the episode, How I Spent My Summer Vacation, along with Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Lenny Kravitz, Elvis Costello, and Brian Setzer. In it, Petty spoofed himself as a tutor to Homer Simpson on the art of lyric writing, composing a brief song about a drunk girl driving down the road while concerned with the state of public schools. Later in the episode, he loses a toe during a riot. Petty had a recurring role as the voice of Elroy Lucky Kleinschmidt in the animated comedy series King of the Hill. In 2008, Petty made a guest appearance as himself in the season 2 finale of the Comedy Central show Le Bush, and in 2010, he made a 5-second cameo appearance with comedian Andy Samberg in a musical video titled Great Day, featured on the bonus DVD as part of Lonely Island's new album Turtleneck and Chain. Awards and accolades. In 1994, You Got Lucky, a Tom Petty tribute album featuring such bands as Everclear and Silkworm, was released. In April 1996, Petty received the UCLA's George Gershwin and Ira Gershwin Award for Lifetime Musical Achievement. The next month, Petty won the American Society of Composers, Authors and Publishers Golden Note Award. In 1999, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for their contribution to the recording industry. In 2002, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. On December 6, 2005, Petty received the Billboard Century Award for his lifetime achievements. The same year, Conversations with Tom Petty, an oral history biography composed of interviews conducted in 2004 and 2005 with Petty by music journalist Paul Zollo, was published. On September 21, 2006, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers received the keys to the city of Gainesville, Florida, where he and his bandmates either lived or grew up. From July 2006 until 2007, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio featured an exhibit of Tom Petty items. Much of the content was donated by Petty himself during a visit to his home by some of the hall's curatorial staff. Peter Bogdanovich's documentary film on Petty's career entitled Runnin' Down a Dream premiered at the New York Film Festival on October 14, 2007. Views on artistic control. Petty is known as a staunch guardian of his artistic control and artistic freedom. In 1979, he was dragged into a legal dispute when ABC Records was sold to MCA Records. He refused to be transferred to another record label without his consent. In May 1979, he filed for bankruptcy and was signed to the new MCA subsidiary Backstreet Records. In early 1981, the upcoming Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album, which would become Hard Promises, was slated to be the next MCA release with a new list price of $9.98, following Steely Dan's Gaucho and the Olivia Newton-John Electric Light Orchestra Xonad soundtrack. This so-called superstar pricing was $1 more than the usual list price of $8.98. Petty voiced his objections to the price hike in the press, and the issue became a popular cause among music fans. Non-delivery of the album and naming it $8.98 were considered, but eventually MCA decided against the price increase. In 1987, Petty sued tire company B.F. Goodrich for $1 million for using a song very similar to his song Mary's New Car in a TV commercial. The ad agency that produced the commercial had previously sought permission to use Petty's song but was refused. A judge issued a temporary restraining order prohibiting further use of the ad, and the suit was later settled out of court. Some have claimed that the Red Hot Chili Peppers single Danny California, released in May 2006, is very similar to Petty's Mary Jane's Last Dance. Petty told Rolling Stone, "I seriously doubt that there is any negative intent there. And a lot of rock and roll songs sound alike. Ask Chuck Berry." The Strokes took American Girl for their song Last Night, and I saw an interview with them where they actually admitted it. That made me laugh out loud. I was like, okay, good for you. If someone took my song note for note and stole it maliciously, then maybe, I'd sue. But I don't believe in lawsuits much. I think there are enough frivolous lawsuits in this country without people fighting over pop songs. Personal life: his first marriage, to Jane Beno, lasted 22 years from March 31, 1974 to September 9, 1996. He spent most of those years working, on the road, or in the studio. Petty and Beno have 2 daughters. Adria is a film director and Kimberly Violette is an artist. Since June 3, 2001, he has been married to Dana York Epperson, whom he first met in 1991 when she attended one of his concerts. Petty has a stepson named Dylan from Dana York Epperson's first marriage. On May 17, 1987, an arsonist set fire to Petty's house in Encino, California. Firefighters were able to salvage the basement recording studio and the original tapes stored there, as well as his Gibson Dove acoustic guitar. His signature grey top hat, however, was destroyed. Petty later rebuilt the house with fireproof materials. Petty spoke in 2014 of the benefits from his practice of transcendental meditation. Equipment: Petty owns and has used a number of guitars over the years. From 1976 to 1982, his main instrument was a Sunburst 1964 Fender Stratocaster. He has also used a number of Rickenbacker guitars from 1979 onward, notably a 1965 Rose Morris 1993 and 1987 reissue of the Rose Morris 1997, a 1967 in 360/12ths and 1989 and 660/12ths TP. The Rickenbacker 660/12 TP was designed by Petty and featured his signature from 1991 to 1997. Other electrics currently used on tour include a Gretsch Tennessean, 2 1960s Fender Telecasters and a Gibson Firebird. For acoustic guitars, Petty has had a signature Compare Martin HD40, and has written virtually all of his songs on a Gibson Dove acoustic saved from his 1987 House Fire. He currently uses a Gibson J200 in a natural finish and a late 70s Guild D25 12-string acoustic. Petty's current amplifier setup features 2 Fender Vibro King 60-watt combos. A detailed gear diagram of Tom Petty's 2000 guitar rig is well documented. Discography: Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, You're Gonna Get It. Damn the Torpedoes, Hard Promises, Long After Dark, Southern Accents, Let Me Up, Full Moon Fever, Into the Great Wide Open, Wild Flowers, Songs and music from She's the One, Echo, The Last DJ, Highway Companion, Mojo, Hypnotic Eye. See also, List of artists who reached #1 on the U.S. mainstream rock chart, List of best-selling music artists, References. External links, Official website, Persondata88 Metadata, see Wikipedia, Persondata, Name equals Petty, Tom Alternative names equals Short description equals American musician Date of birth equals October 20, 1950 Place of birth equals Gainesville, Florida, U.S. date of death equals place of death equals